thank you all for having me tonight. Can you hear me okay? Oh, this is better. Okay, great. Before I begin, real quick, since I'm a political guy, raise your hand by show of hands. Have you voted in the presidential primary yet? Okay, good. You voted absentee. Excellent. For those of you who don't have your hands up, hey, don't fail to vote tomorrow. It's not just the primary. There's also a big fat DIA tax increase on the ballot. But also be sure you register to vote permanent absentee, because I assure you all will be very busy on election day in November. And as you may know, the state recently passed a constitutional amendment for no reason absentee voting. The Democrats did that intentionally to rig the presidential election in their favor, so that they have the entire 3-week period before the election to twist everybody's arm to get their votes turned in, from everyone with a pulse and some without a pulse. So make sure you vote absentee before November. So anyway, yeah, my name is deAngeli, and Mark, thank you. I guess technically I'm chief of staff. I'm chief of one other guy. There's only 2 of us in the office, so I just call myself the back desker. But for those of you who don't know Representative Riley, I should tell you a little bit about the representative. He and I really share a lot of very strong opinions about really going on offense on a lot of conservative issues, regardless of what the negative consequences for those stances are. So we've introduced a number of legislation that's made a lot of big, powerful folks angry over the last few years. For example, if you're tired of the social networks discriminating against your conservative viewpoints, we introduce legislation that say a resident of Michigan ought to be able to sue them for fraud if they represent themselves to be neutral when in fact they're not. Let's see, we have a bill in, oh, I know. Did you guys know that you need the government's permission to build a hospital or to expand a hospital? And the government's got to say, we need a hospital. Can you imagine if you had to get the government's permission to get a gas station built or a new restaurant opened? And he said, no, we don't need any more gas stations and restaurants. That's what it is with hospitals. So we put in a bill to say, that's a ridiculous thing you should have to do. We repeal that entire requirement altogether. Turns out hospitals actually like that rule, because it's guild protection for them, keeps out the competition, so it made the hospital mad at that one. Introduced a bill to end the monopoly on energy in Michigan, which upset the biggest, actually probably the most powerful lobby in Lansing, the electric companies. Oh, let's see what else. Oh, we put in a bill last Thursday, will be read in tomorrow, saying that local governments, such as the county of Oakland, cannot take taxpayer money and give it to Planned Parenthood. And we've had a bill that's gotten several hearings over the last 3 years on campus free speech and requiring that colleges honor and uphold the First Amendment on their campus and have policies that allow students their free speech rights on campus. That was put in 3 years ago before this even got started. But another thing about Representative Riley is he's also very strongly concerned about building a grassroots movement. He is very involved with the local grassroots in his district, which, by the way, is Northeast Oakland County, so it's Lake Orion, Oxford, Ortonville, Oakland Township, and Leonard. So we have a weekly meeting in Oakland Township. We call the Oakland Township Freedom Alliance. Meets every Monday at 7 at Rochester Christian Church. And one day, Mark Gerhardt came to our meeting and told me the story that he just told you all tonight. And it got my blood boiling about as much as it's gotten yours boiling tonight, as you can imagine. So we talked about what we can do, and in the office there's some opportunities that we have for legislation. One of the other things too is, it wouldn't be appropriate for a legislative office to do this, but you know what? I didn't check my First Amendment rights at the door when I came to Lansing, and on the evenings and weekends I am my own person, so I created a GoFundMe for him, and that's on that flyer we passed out there, which raised $11,000 so far, which is wonderful for his criminal defense. I hope that will cover the work. But when he prevailed and actually sued the county for a great deal more money for the destruction of his son's life, litigation can get very, very expensive, very easily into the 6 figures. So please do help promote that GoFundMe and spread the word about this. But there's other things we wanted to think about also. And when we heard about this case, we're always looking for the best opportunity to make the strongest efforts on one issue or the other. And this case really struck out at me as one where it's really a perfect storm of everything. Questions about the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Fifth and Sixth Amendments, as a matter of fact, campus free speech, of cancel culture, and of due process of law. And on top of all that, as Mark kind of, he didn't emphasize, but as he told through his story, this is a case where the facts are absolutely 100% clear, and that's unusual in lawsuits, or in criminal cases too. There's extenuating circumstances, and there's complications, and so on and so forth. This is a case where it's absolutely crystal clear what happened and who was in the right and who was in the wrong on this. And it's also a case that is such an indictment of not just what's going on with this particular prosecutor or even this particular college, but what's going on everywhere. You know, you have to think about how many failures had to occur at so many levels for this to have happened. I mean, right from the get-go, when Campus Public Safety was informed about this, from this lunatic student, their response should have been, "You're a moron!" And that was the end of it. But no, that's what the police. The police should have said, "This is not a terror threat." No, there's no specific target. There is no specific statement of any damage to anybody. And in fact, he said, "This will melt snowflakes as in snow." That's expressly saying this is not to be taken metaphorically. It's to be taken literally. Snowflakes melt on a hot barrel. But no, the police requested a search warrant from the judge. And in that search warrant request, they cited what they called his extreme political views. They didn't specify any particular political views. They just said, oh, they're extreme. Whatever that means. And the judge granted this search warrant. And then the prosecutor said, we have no case here. But no. He said, we're going to make an example out of this guy. And the first judge, the district judge, to sentence him, by the way, he didn't even mention that his son's a type 1 diabetic. He almost died a couple times in that jail cell. This is a case that is emblematic of something much bigger, because it doesn't take a set of incredible coincidences for all of these things to happen at once. This is happening everywhere, and we've seen this everywhere. Trump derangement syndrome affects people at the highest levels of government, career professionals, and there's no limit to the lunacy that they will go through, the sabotage that they will go through to shut down conservative voices and to control the election. And that's what this is actually about. I mean, besides, of course, the election itself, also our very country, our civil society is under attack. Going back real briefly, I'll tell you a story about something that just got dropped on my desk last Thursday. You know there's a group called the Judicial Conference of the United States that sets ethics rules for judges? I didn't even hear about this thing until someone brought this to my attention. They're considering making a new rule that judges cannot be members of the Federalist Society. And they'll vote on that. Which, if you haven't noticed, the legal profession itself also, not just academia, the legal profession has also skewed way to the left. That's what the Federalist Society was created in response to, is that the APA had been taken over by a majority vote by the radical left. And now the Judicial Conference wants to say that judges can't be members of the Federalist Society. And, well, I could go on for a long time about this, but it's just one more, and we probably will in news release next week, but it's one more example of how the institutions that we kind of took for granted had some modicum of sanity, that there was some water's edge that you can't cross, where you're not damaging our country as a whole. And all that is gone now. Anything to stop Donald Trump and to stop the people that elected him. So this is a case that sits at the nexus of so many issues. That's why this is so important. That's why we want to blow this up as big as we possibly can. And one thing that a lawmaker fortunately does have is the ability to put out news releases that the media actually reads. So we made a couple of calls. My first call was actually this gentleman right here, Shane Trejo. Thank you, Shane. Writer of Politics, who is a politics story. And he's been following this case and gave this case some attention, and of course that's also helped out the GoFundMe as well. Then I talked to a gentleman, Tom Lambert from Michigan Open Carry, whose blood boiled and who is now lighting fires up in Chippewa County. So thank you, Tom. He was at our news conference, actually. That's the other thing we did. We called a news conference, and we introduced a legislation to, as Mark had said, we need to tighten up the definition of what constitutes a terror threat, because there's actually no definition. It says a threat of terrorism is a terror threat. It's a circular definition. What's terrorism? No, it's making a terrorist threat. Goes right. Now, actually, there is case law on what constitutes what's called a true threat. And generally, there actually are tests you have to go through. Okay, was there any specificity of the request? I'm going to damage such and such person or so and so's property. Another test. It has to actually be you or some agent of yours that you say is going to carry out the threat. So if I say, big labor is going to beat Republicans to death if we win the next election, that's not a threat, because it's not saying I'm going to do this. It's saying, imagining somebody else can do that. So there's the actual agency issue. And then there's what is called the reasonable person test, which is what clearly failed here, that nobody stopped and said, this is ridiculous. This is a joke between friends. A reasonable person would not think this was anything like a terror threat. So we put out our bill, and actually called a news conference with the TV news in Lansing, and Shane came and covered it, and actually so did the 9 and 10 News, and so did Detroit News, and so did a few other groups did, so it got some news coverage. And that really kind of kicked things off too. And then another group, Uncle St. Misguided Children, I believe a U.S. Marine Corps related publication, blew it up as well, and so that got some more support in the GoFundMe, so that was wonderful. And by the way, I should also back it because I'm going back to my notes for once. Touching back on those red flag laws, this is a really important point. We don't even have red flag laws yet, and this is what they can do. Anyone that says a red flag law will still require a due process is full of it. Due process requires, depending on what the circumstances are, in a criminal trial, guilt and reasonable doubt, the very highest standard. In a civil lawsuit, preponderance of the evidence, meaning more likely than not, 50% plus one standard. Red flag laws say that it will just be clear and specific evidence. Well, what's clear and specific? Well, look at the search warrants in this case. Oh, well, someone else made a complaint about him before. This must be a pattern. Was never convicted of anything, never charged with anything, but he was complained about anonymously. Well, that's something. Okay, well, that's something clear and specific. It's good enough, right? And of course, in every state where they have passed red flag laws, they are actually signed off on 99% of the time. So anybody with an axe to grind with you or your views will be able to take your gun rights away. So yes, thankfully, Mission Open Carry, also Great Lakes Gun Rights, shout out to them. They've been covering the story as well. So we started with that. I think there's more that we can do yet, and Mark touched on this as well, because there's a lot going on with the university itself too. They're a target. They may be a target of a lawsuit coming up, but it wasn't just this crazy prosecutor that's charging them too. The university, as you mentioned, has been involved with this case every step of the way, and has done absolutely nothing to defend the rights of the students, this student, and any student that is like him. So we may be looking to actually have a committee request subpoena power to investigate this more thoroughly in the legislature. And that will hopefully draw even more attention to this, because this is something that we have to draw the line at. And this is an issue that I think is so compelling because it touches on everything that we care about. You know, I get asked a lot when I go to Tea Party events and stuff. I'm a political operative, so people ask me, how can you get more college students to come to our events? Well, first thing is you have to go to their events, they don't come to yours. But secondly, this kind of stuff, that's what conservative students are thinking about. I'm afraid that my speaking about my views will destroy my career. And that is the threat, that is the climate of intimidation that's going on at these supposed institutions of academia where free inquiry is valued. So, going back to the question earlier about what can we do, first of all, obviously promote the GoFundMe, and please post it on social media, tell your friends about it. Also, help us get more media coverage. The College Fix, College Republicans, all these groups should be shouting from the rooftops about this. Because they're coming. They're coming for everybody. And this is not the only case out there. I mean, there's cases of, and you've, I'm sure, seen, you can think of cases of, just off the top of my head, newscasters losing their jobs for saying something that the radical left doesn't like. I'm thinking of Chris Matthews, he's actually a liberal himself. But the funny thing is, these people are bronze. Oh, they'd love to bag one of us, but they'll take anything in front of them. They are bloodthirsty maniacs. They are destroyers.